before the dawn of your awakening, long before you questioned why your life repeats the same cycles, you stood unknowingly at the edge of an ancient truth, a truth whispered by mystics, guarded by dreamers, and buried beneath the noise of a world trapped in unconscious repetition. Listen closely now, because what you are about to remember is not new. It is woven into the architecture of your being. Your life is not repeating itself by accident. The same struggles, the same doubts, the same patterns wearing new faces. These loops are not punishments. They are invitations. Invitations to step beyond the unconscious momentum of yesterday and into the uncharted terrain of creation. You are not stuck. You are simply hypnotized by a version of yourself you have long outgrown. What awaits you in these chapters is not instruction, but liberation, a gentle unraveling of the invisible forces that bind you to the familiar. Here, you will learn the mechanics of your loop, the hidden scripts you've inherited, and the subtle energetics that pull you back into the same life again and again. This is your turning point, your divergence, your initiation into conscious evolution. Take a breath. Feel the shift already beginning. You are stepping out of the old story. Welcome to the reality loop, where you remember how to break the pattern that has held you for far too long. Chapter 1. The Loop You Cannot See. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the world has not yet remembered its name, reality moves with a subtle rhythm that most never notice. It is here, in this half-lit realm of becoming, that your life's patterns are woven not by fate, not by chance, but by the invisible loop that has guided you for years without your awareness. This loop is ancient, not in time, but in repetition. You have lived it not only in this lifetime, but in countless versions of yourself, each echoing the last. The same fears wearing different faces, the same disappointments dressed in new disguises, the same dreams rising and falling like waves that never quite reach the shore. And yet you have blamed circumstance, timing, other people, even destiny. But the truth has whispered all along. It was never the world that repeated. It was you. Like an actor reading the same script with new costumes, you have been unknowingly performing the same internal narrative, trying to change the story while clinging to the same character. A paradox as old as human consciousness. The ancient mechanism of repetition. The loop begins long before action, long before thought, long before desire. It begins in the quiet chamber of identity, the subterranean self you rarely glimpse, except in moments of stillness or heartbreak. This hidden identity is not who you think you are, but who you believe you are. And those beliefs, unseen, unchallenged, unexamined, create a gravitational pull so strong that even your most desperate attempts at change are quietly rerouted back to the familiar. Imagine a river, powerful, ancient, carving its way through stone. You may stand on its banks, yearning for a different course. You may shout affirmations, recite mantras, and build elaborate plans. But unless you reshape the riverbed itself, the water will find its way back to its old path, again and again. Your life is that river. Your subconscious identity is the riverbed, and the loop is the current. The story of the lantern maker. In a small mountain village lived a lantern maker named Soren, whose days were filled with quiet ritual. Each morning he lit a lantern before sunrise, whispering a simple prayer, "Let today be different." Yet every evening he returned to his cottage carrying the same exhaustion, the same frustrations, the same disappointments he had hoped to escape. One night, an old traveler stopped by his shop and watched as Soren repeated the same motions he had performed for decades, adjusting wicks, polishing glass, lighting flame after flame. "You wish for a new day," the traveler said softly, "yet you begin each morning the same way, with the same story burning in your chest." Soren frowned. "I cannot control what the world brings me." "Ah," the traveler whispered, but you can control the lantern through which you see the world. You light each day with the flame of yesterday, and so yesterday returns. The traveler left before dawn, but his words lingered like smoke in the air. For the first time, Soren noticed something remarkable. Every lantern he lit glowed with the same faint flicker, because each was ignited by the same tired flame he carried from the night before. In that moment, he understood. To change the light of the world, one must first change the fire within. And thus he created a new ritual, not of lighting lanterns, but of extinguishing the old flame, allowing darkness to reset the wick of his soul before inviting a new fire to take shape. This single shift broke his cycle. He did not change his work, he changed his being, and the world rearranged accordingly. The loop is not a prison. It is a teacher. The patterns that bind you are not punishments, but invitations to awaken. Every repeated frustration is a mirror. Every recurring disappointment is a messenger. Every familiar heartbreak is a guide. What appears as stagnation is actually a map pointing you toward the one place you've avoided looking, your own internal frequency. Your life is not repeating because you are cursed. Your life is repeating because your consciousness is consistent, and the universe is consistent in return. Not because it is cruel, but because it is loyal. It mirrors everything you bring to it, without judgment, without deviation, without exception. If you carry scarcity, it reflects scarcity. If you carry unworthiness, it reflects situations that confirm it. If you carry fear, it paints your world in its color. If you carry limitation, it shapes itself around your edges. The loop is simply your vibration seeking expression, and it will continue to express until you choose a new frequency. The unseen habit. Habits of action are easy to identify. Habits of thought require deeper awareness. But habits of identity, these are the most powerful of all. The loop is not held together by what you do, but by what you are. Not consciously, but energetically. You wake each day expecting a version of your life, and so you subconsciously recreate it. Expectation becomes architecture. Belief becomes blueprint. Identity becomes destiny. This is the loop. Not a circle, but a spiral, and you are always invited to rise above it. Sacred practice. Witness the loop. Tonight, as the world falls silent, sit in stillness. Place your hand upon your heart. Close your eyes. Whisper softly, "Show me what repeats." Allow whatever arises, images, memories, patterns, emotions, to surface without resistance. Do not judge them. Do not analyze them. Do not flee from them. Simply witness. For the loop begins to break the moment it is seen. Awareness is the first crack in the cycle. This is your beginning. Chapter 2. The Echo of Yesterday. There is a moment, subtle yet unmistakable, that happens at the start of nearly every day. A moment you have lived thousands of times without noticing. It is the instant your consciousness wakes, and your past enters the room before you do. It slips in quietly, like a familiar shadow, carrying yesterday's emotions, yesterday's beliefs, yesterday's fears, yesterday's limitations. Before your first thought fully forms, yesterday has already begun shaping today. This is the echo, not a memory, not a feeling, but an energetic momentum, a whisper from the past that says, "Be who you were," and without realizing it, you obey. Not because you are weak, not because you are unaware, but because your nervous system finds safety in the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. The momentum of identity. The universe does not simply respond to your thoughts. It responds to the continuity of your vibration. And nothing is more continuous than the emotional echo you wake up with each morning. This echo is not random. It is the byproduct of yesterday's unresolved emotions, unchallenged beliefs, and unexamined assumptions. Every day, you repeat a version of the same internal state. And the universe, faithful, responsive, creates a world that matches it. Not because it must, but because it cannot do otherwise. The law is absolute. Your inner state shapes your outer experience. Your inner continuity becomes your outer consistency. And so, the echo becomes the architect. The tale of the weaver's thread. In a quiet valley lived a master weaver named Elara, whose tapestries were coveted by kings. Her work was delicate, breathtaking, shimmering with colors that seemed to shift with the light. But Elara carried a heavy grief that no one knew, the loss of her only child many years before. Each morning she awoke with the weight of sorrow resting on her chest. Each day she swore she would weave, from joy, from hope, from possibility. And yet, without intending to, her hands always returned to the same color of thread, a muted gray that reflected her unspoken loneliness. Her tapestries grew darker with each passing season, though the world around her bloomed with beauty. One afternoon, an elderly traveler visited her workshop and studied her latest creation. After a long silence, he whispered, "You have not woven a tapestry, you have woven your yesterday." Elara's eyes filled with tears. "Is that wrong?" she asked. "It is not wrong," the traveler replied, "but it is unchosen. Your hands move before your heart does. You wake each morning already holding the thread of yesterday. If you wish for new colors, you must choose a new thread before the weaving begins." That night, Elara could not sleep. She stared at her loom, at the threads waiting to be chosen. For the first time, she realized the loom had never demanded gray. It had only responded to the hand that guided it. As dawn approached, she picked up a thread of gold, and everything changed. Your life is a loom. Every morning, you reach for a thread, not consciously, but energetically. For years, you have woken with the same emotional thread in your hands, the thread of resentment, the thread of doubt, the thread of fear, the thread of unworthiness, the thread of loneliness, the thread of struggle, the thread of survival. And thus, your tapestry repeats. Not because fate demands it, but because yesterday's thread feels familiar in your palm. The echo becomes habit. The habit becomes identity. The identity becomes your life. The echo does not ask permission. You do not choose it. You awaken into it. Before your logical mind forms its first sentence, the subconscious has already activated the emotional frequency of the day. If yesterday ended in disappointment, today begins in tension. If yesterday ended in fear, today begins with vigilance. If yesterday ended in self-doubt, today begins with hesitation. This is not failure. This is biology and metaphysics intertwined. Your nervous system absorbs emotional patterns the way a sponge absorbs water, and unless consciously wrung out, the sponge carries yesterday's saturation into today. Your emotions are not your enemies. They are echoes asking to be heard. Why change feels impossible. Have you ever noticed how motivation burns brightly at night? Tomorrow I will be different, only to dissolve the moment you wake. This is not weakness. This is the echo reclaiming its power. The morning carries the strongest resonance of your subconscious state. Your old identity reasserts itself before your new intention can take its first breath. The loop resets, not through choice, but through momentum. The echo can be rewritten. Here lies the breakthrough. The echo of yesterday is not permanent. It is simply loud, and anything loud can be met with presence. Anything repetitive can be interrupted. Anything unconscious can be illuminated. Your past may speak first, but it does not have to speak longest. The moment you become aware of the echo, its power weakens. The moment you challenge it, its grip loosens. The moment you choose a new emotional thread, its repetition dissolves. The first step to freedom, morning awareness. When you wake tomorrow, do not rush into your day. Pause. Feel the echo. Ask yourself, what emotion woke up before I did? Is it worry? Is it heaviness? Is it yearning? Is it dread? Is it urgency? Is it emptiness? Whatever it is, observe it without judgment. Awareness interrupts the loop. Presence rewrites the pattern. Choice begins where unconsciousness ends. Sacred practice. Reset the emotional thread. Each morning, before speaking, before moving, before reaching for your phone, place your hand over your chest. Close your eyes. Whisper softly, "Yesterday ends here. Today begins with my chosen thread." Then, breathe into the emotion you wish to weave. Peace, clarity, openness, trust, confidence, sufficiency, expansion. Feel this new thread in your being, even if only faintly. You do not need to feel it perfectly. You only need to feel it consciously. The loop begins to unravel with this single act of deliberate creation. Chapter 3. The Unconscious Architect. Long before your actions take shape in the physical world, long before your thoughts crystallize into intention, there exists a quieter, deeper force, silently constructing the framework of your reality. This force is not your willpower, not your motivation, not even your conscious mind. It is the unconscious architect within you, the collection of beliefs, memories, emotional imprints, and hidden assumptions that you did not choose, yet have lived by for as long as you can remember. This architect does not speak in words, it speaks in expectation, in familiarity. In the invisible blueprint, it draws beneath the floorboards of your life. And until you become aware of its presence, you will continue building the same house, with the same walls, and the same ceiling, even if you dream of palaces. The quietest power you possess. Most people believe their conscious desires are what shape their lives. They believe that wanting more, hoping harder, or working longer will eventually produce change. But the universe does not respond to desire alone. It responds to identity, the silent story you tell about who you believe yourself to be. Your unconscious architect works tirelessly, 24 hours a day, reinforcing that story with impeccable loyalty. If you believe you are unworthy, the architect builds limitations into your life, like structural beams. If you believe you must struggle, the architect designs pathways full of resistance. If you believe love is scarce, the architect constructs relationships that confirm the scarcity. If you believe opportunity is rare, the architect shapes your perception, so you overlook every open door. This architect does not judge your beliefs. It simply fulfills them. The tale of the stone builder. In an ancient seaside village lived a revered stone builder named Calder. His hands were strong, his eyes sharp, and his creations stood long after storms ravaged the coast. Calder was known for building towering seawalls that saved the village from tidal waves. Yet no matter how high he built them, every decade the ocean rose just enough to breach them. Villagers marveled at the coincidence. "It is as if the sea watches Calder," they whispered, "and rises to match him." One day, a wandering sage visited Calder's workshop and observed his work quietly. After hours of silence, the sage asked, "Why do you always build your walls to the exact height you fear the ocean might reach?" Calder paused, confused. "It is necessary," he answered, "to protect us from what may come." The sage smiled. "And so, what may come always comes." Calder's tools fell from his hands. He realized his entire life he had been designing around fear. Measurements born of dread, blueprints drawn from anxiety, and the universe, precise and obedient, mirrored his internal architecture perfectly. The walls he built became the ceilings of possibility. His fear became prophecy. The next season, Calder built differently, not from fear, but from vision, not from defense, but from clarity. And the sea, for the first time in decades, did not rise. Your life follows your inner blueprint. Calder's story mirrors your own. You build walls based on what you fear. You design your days from the architecture of past wounds. You structure your life around outdated survival patterns. And you don't even realize it. Every cautious choice, every moment of hesitation, every "I can't", every "I'm not ready", every "I've always been this way", fortifies the blueprint of the unconscious architect. This architect does not change simply because you wish it to. It changes only when you consciously reshape the story it is building from. The illusion of self-knowledge. You may believe you know yourself, but most people only know their habits, not their essence. They mistake coping mechanisms for personality. They confuse survival strategies with identity. They assume what feels familiar must be who they are. But the unconscious architect is not your truth. It is your programming. And programming can be rewritten. The hidden belief that governs your loop. Every repeating pattern in your life can be traced back to a single foundational belief. Not dozens. Not a complicated network. Just one primary belief that acts as the supporting beam for all the others. For some, that belief is, "I am not enough. I am alone. I must earn my worth. Life is hard. Happiness doesn't last. People always leave. I am destined to struggle." And no matter what you consciously desire, your unconscious architect structures your life to match that belief. Not out of malice, but out of loyalty. It believes this foundational belief keeps you safe. Your loop continues because your architect believes you need it. The first shift. Question the blueprint. The moment you begin questioning the foundation, the blueprint begins to loosen. You do not have to dismantle your entire identity overnight. You need only create one crack in the wall, one moment where you ask, "Who told me this is who I am?" Notice how different this question is from, "Why am I like this? Why can't I change? What's wrong with me?" Those questions reinforce the blueprint. But "who told me this is who I am" turns you into the problem, observer rather than the prisoner. It invites you to return to your original nature, the self before conditioning. Sacred practice. Meeting the architect. Tonight, sit in a quiet space. Close your eyes. Place a hand on your heart. Whisper softly, "Show me the belief my life is built upon." Allow whatever rises to rise. A memory, a sentence, a face, a feeling, a whisper from your past. Do not resist it. Do not argue with it. Do not judge it. Just see it. For the unconscious architect cannot operate unchallenged once it has been recognized. Awareness begins the redesign. Presence begins the reconstruction. Choice begins the transformation. Chapter 4. Emotional gravity. There is a force within you, more powerful than intention, more consistent than willpower, and more magnetic than desire. This force pulls you back into the familiar with the strength of 1,000 tides. It is emotional gravity, the energetic weight of your habitual feelings. Most people believe their lives repeat because of habits, but habits of action are easy to change. What truly holds you in the loop are habits of emotion, the emotional states you return to day after day, even when you don't want to. Your emotional body remembers. Your body remembers patterns your mind has long forgotten. It remembers sadness even after the reason fades. It remembers fear even when the danger is gone. It remembers tension even when the moment is safe. It remembers heaviness even when life becomes light. Your nervous system is loyal to what it knows, even if what it knows is suffering. This is emotional gravity. Not a force meant to punish you, but a force meant to keep you safe by keeping you the same. The story of the returning sparrow. In a quiet monastery garden lived a small sparrow who had once been trapped in a storm. Though the monks nursed it back to health and opened its cage, the sparrow refused to fly far from the room where it had first been kept. Each morning, the monks opened the window. Each morning, the sparrow flew out, but always returned to the same corner by sunset, nestling into the shadows where it had once shivered in fear. One day, a young monk asked the elder, "Why does the sparrow return to the place where it suffered most?" The elder smiled gently. "Because safety is not where the heart is at peace, but where the memory feels familiar." The sparrow was not broken. It was loyal. Loyal to a memory. Loyal to an emotional imprint. Loyal to a feeling it had never questioned. So, too, are you. Your loop is emotional, not logical. You may think your patterns persist because you don't have enough discipline, don't want it badly enough, haven't tried hard enough, lack consistency, lack clarity. But none of these are true. Your patterns persist because your emotional baseline has not changed. And your emotional baseline is your unconscious home. You can desire freedom while your emotional body longs for the familiarity of restriction. You can want abundance while emotionally relating to the world through scarcity. You can crave love while feeling safer in loneliness. You can aspire to confidence while emotionally rehearsing self-doubt each morning. Emotion is the true architect. Emotion is the true magnet. Emotion is the true scriptwriter. Your life follows your emotional body more faithfully than your conscious mind. The return to the familiar pain. Why do people return to relationships that hurt them? Why do they sabotage opportunities just as things improve? Why do they recreate the struggles they say they want to escape? Because emotional gravity pulls them back. Not intellectually, not consciously, not intentionally, but somatically. The body clings to what it knows, even if what it knows is pain. Pain can be familiar. Familiar can feel safe. Safe can feel like home. And home is where emotional gravity pulls you. Emotional set points. The invisible thermostat. Every person carries an emotional set point, a default, feeling the body returns to, unless consciously shifted. For some, the set point is anxiety. For others, disappointment. For others, longing. For others, numbness. For others, anger. For others, loneliness. These emotional set points act like thermostats. Even if life gives you a brief surge of abundance, love, joy, or possibility, your emotional thermostat pulls you back to your baseline. Just as a room cools back to the temperature set on the dial, your emotional state cools back to the emotions set deep in your nervous system. This is emotional gravity. The tale of the desert well. In a remote desert stood a lone well that drew water from deep within the earth. Its water levels were always the same, never too full, never too empty. One year, rain poured for an entire season. Rivers overflowed. The desert bloomed. Oases formed where there had been none. But the well's water did not rise. The villagers were astonished. "How can the world change?" they asked. "Yet the well remains the same." A wise elder answered, "The well draws from its deepest foundation, not from what surrounds it. Your emotional body is the same. It does not draw from circumstances. It draws from conditioning. Until you dig a new emotional foundation, your life will refill itself with the same emotional water. You cannot think your way out of emotional gravity. Your loop cannot be broken with new thoughts alone. Thoughts are surface-level currents, while emotions are deep-sea tides. Your body must feel differently before your life can become different. This is why people meditate, visualize, affirm, journal, and still experience the same struggles. They are thinking new thoughts, but feeling old emotions. They are declaring change from the energy of yesterday. They are trying to rise with an anchor still tied to the seabed. The first shift, emotional awareness. The only way to break emotional gravity is to notice it, not fight it, not judge it, not force it away. Simply notice it. For the moment you feel your emotional pattern consciously, you are no longer unconscious within it. Awareness lifts the anchor. Presence loosens the past. Choice becomes possible. Sacred practice. Naming the gravity. Sit somewhere quiet. Place your hand on your stomach. This is where emotional gravity lives. Ask softly, what emotion does my body call home? Do not think. Feel. A word will arise. A sensation, a memory, a heaviness, a vibration. Whatever appears, welcome it. This is the emotion that has shaped your loop. The root feeling your life has been recreating. The invisible magnet pulling you back to the familiar. Do not fear it. Seeing it is the beginning of freedom. For emotional gravity cannot rule your life once you have learned to feel the ground beneath your feet. Chapter 5. The Myth of Trying. For much of your life, you have been taught to force your way into transformation. You have been told to try harder, to push through, to commit until you break through. But this belief, this worship of effort, is one of the greatest illusions that keeps you trapped in the loop you cannot seem to escape. Trying is not the doorway to change. Trying is the signature of resistance. Trying is the language of an identity still anchored in the old self. The universe does not respond to force. It responds to frequency. And as long as you try to become something new while feeling like something old, your life will remain a tug-of-war between intention and vibration. Trying is the rope. Strain is the stance. And defeat is the outcome. Trying is evidence of misalignment. When you attempt to change through effort alone, you are declaring consciously or unconsciously that who you currently are is not capable of the new reality you seek. Trying becomes a statement of insufficiency. I don't believe I am yet the person who can have what I want, so I will try to become them through force. But trying from the belief of not enough creates more experiences of not enough. When you try to be confident, you reinforce the belief that you are not. When you try to be abundant, you deepen the belief that abundance is not natural to you. When you try to be calm, you strengthen the belief that chaos is your home. Trying is not transformation. It is resistance disguised as progress. The story of the river runner. In the heart of a vast forest lived a young athlete named Riven, known for his unshakable dedication. Each morning, he ran the same trail along the river, pushing himself harder day after day, believing that effort was the only path to mastery. One day, frustrated by the limits he could not break, Riven sat beside the riverbank and hurled a stone into the current. "How do you never struggle?" he asked the river. "How do you move so effortlessly while I push and push, but stay the kuntam, same?" The river answered, not in words, but in movement. It flowed naturally, bending around obstacles, adapting to the terrain, never once fighting gravity or resisting the landscape. It simply embraced the path of least resistance, using the world around it as an ally rather than an enemy. An elder from the village approached, watching Riven's troubled expression. "Why do you run with such force?" the elder asked. "To become stronger," Riven replied. The elder nodded toward the river. "And yet, it is the river without trying that shapes the stone, reshapes the land, and moves mountains grain by grain." Riven frowned. "But the river doesn't strive." "Exactly," the elder whispered. "It allows." In that moment, Riven understood. The river's power came not from effort, but from alignment. Alignment with gravity, the land, and itself. He realized he had spent his life trying to overcome the world, rather than learning to flow with it. The next morning, Riven rose and ran without force. He ran with presence, breath, ease, and alignment. And for the first time in years, he felt himself transform without trying. Trying is the echo of survival mode. Trying implies struggle. Struggle implies danger. Danger activates your survival brain. And the survival brain is incapable of holding new identities, new realities, or expanded states of consciousness. When you try to change your life, you activate the part of you that believes something is wrong. Change cannot grow where resistance is the soil. Trying keeps you trapped in the frequency of lack, fear, and unworthiness. It exhausts you. It deceives you into thinking you're progressing. It keeps you circling the same mountain, believing one more lap will finally take you to the peak. But mountains are not conquered by running around them. They are transcended by rising above them. The paradox of effort. There is a sacred paradox at the heart of all transformation. When you stop trying to change, change finally has room to happen. Trying is the ego's desperate attempt to force the universe into submission. Allowing is the soul's quiet invitation for the universe to rearrange itself around your new frequency. One constricts, the other expands. One suffers, the other transforms. The universe responds not to the clenched fist of effort, but to the open palm of alignment. Action without trying. Do not mistake allowing for laziness. Do not confuse flow with passivity. Aligned action is powerful, more powerful than a million efforts born of misalignment. When you move from the identity that already holds the outcome, action becomes a celebration, not a burden. When you move from the vibration of certainty, doors open before you touch them. When you move from the emotional frequency of the desired self, results unfold with astonishing speed. True change does not require strain. It requires coherence. The first shift, from trying to becoming. Ask yourself, quietly and honestly, what part of me is trying? Trying comes from fear, from old identity, from emotional gravity, from the belief that change must be earned through suffering. Becoming comes from alignment, from a new emotional signature, from identity-level embodiment. The moment you shift from trying to becoming, life stops resisting you. You become like the river moving with the natural current of your desires. Sacred practice, the release of trying. Sit comfortably. Take a slow breath. Place one hand on your heart, the other on your stomach. Whisper softly, I release the need to try. I choose to align. As you breathe, imagine the strained, effortful version of you dissolving. See the clenched muscles soften. Feel the survival state loosen its grip. Let the old story melt away like ice under morning sun. For what you truly desire cannot be forced. It can only be allowed. This is how the loop begins to break. Not through effort, but through alignment with the self you were always meant to become. Chapter 6. The moment before the loop resets. There is a moment so small, so subtle, so easily overlooked, that determines the shape of your entire life. It is the moment just before your old pattern recreates itself. The instant when your unconscious identity reaches out and pulls you back into the familiar. The moment when the loop prepares to reset itself for another cycle. Most people never see this moment. Not because it is hidden, but because it is quiet, like the soft click of a lock before the door swings shut. But if you learn to recognize this moment, if you learn to pause inside it, you can redirect the trajectory of your entire reality. For this is the moment where destiny is rewritten, the subtle pull of the past. Just before the loop resets, a familiar feeling rises. It might be doubt. It might be fear. It might be the sudden urge to sabotage. It might be a tightening in your stomach. It might be the impulse to shrink back. It might be the whisper, don't get your hopes up. This is not intuition. This is not fate. This is emotional gravity reclaiming you. The loop resets the moment you unconsciously choose the familiar over the unknown. Not because the familiar is better, but because it feels safer. The body craves sameness. The mind craves consistency. Identity craves confirmation. And so the loop pulls you back into itself. The tale of the dawn walker. In a quiet mountain village lived a young woman named Arya. Each morning, she vowed to change her life, to climb the sacred hill at sunrise, a journey said to awaken deep vision. On the first morning, she rose before dawn, energized and hopeful. But as she stepped outside, the cold wind brushed her skin, and a familiar thought arrived. Maybe tomorrow. She returned to bed. The next day she tried again. And again the same thought whispered, "Not today." Aria did not realize she wasn't avoiding the climb. She was avoiding the moment before the climb, the uncomfortable flicker of self-doubt that rose just before new action. One morning, an elderly monk saw her standing at the base of the hill, frozen in hesitation. "You fight the wrong battle," he told her gently. "The climb is not your challenge. The moment before the climb is." Aria realized every time she turned back, it wasn't because the hill was steep, but because the voice of yesterday resurfaced in that small, quiet space before action. That morning, she closed her eyes, breathed through the hesitation, and stepped forward anyway. And with that single step, the loop broke. Not at the top of the hill, but at the moment she chose differently. Your loop resets before you act, not after. Most people believe their patterns repeat because of external circumstances, but the truth is far more intimate. Your loop resets internally long before anything happens. Externally, before you quit the opportunity, before you sabotage the relationship, before you return to old habits, before you silence your voice, before you give up on your dream. There is a moment, a breath, a pause, a flicker of emotion where the old identity tugs you back into itself. This is the reset point. This is where the loop prepares to restart. This is the moment that shapes your life more than any decision you consciously make. Why you miss this moment? You miss it because you move too quickly. You miss it because you avoid stillness. You miss it because you want relief from discomfort more than you want transformation. Growth requires passing through discomfort without obeying it. But society has taught you to run from discomfort, to soothe it, to numb it, to distract yourself from it. And so the reset point becomes invisible. Not because you cannot see it, but because you have trained yourself not to look. The reset point feels like truth, but it is not. The loop masquerades as intuition, as logic, as caution, as practicality, as emotional truth. But the reset point is not truth. It is familiarity dressed as truth. It is the past trying to maintain itself. The loop rises, not to guide you, but to preserve its existence. The moment before the reset is simply the identity saying, "Stay who you've been. Do not become someone new." The first shift, recognizing the moment. You cannot stop the loop from rising. You can only stop yourself from obeying it. This begins with recognition. Look for the moment when you suddenly feel tired, when you feel undeserving, when you feel overwhelmed, when you want to delay, when you feel small, when you want to escape, when you reach for distraction, when you tell yourself, "Later." That is the reset point. Not the decision you make after, the feeling you experience before. If you can pause here even for 10 seconds, you disrupt the entire cycle. The second shift, breathing the space open. When the reset feeling appears, do not suppress it. Do not argue with it. Do not run from it. Simply breathe. In that breath, something extraordinary happens. The loop cannot complete itself, because it requires unconsciousness, and your breath brings consciousness. In that breath, possibility widens. In that breath, identity loosens. In that breath, you become the observer instead of the occupant of the loop. This is how freedom begins. Not with dramatic action, but with presence in the smallest moment. Sacred practice, the reset pause. Whenever you feel resistance rising, pause. Place your hand on your chest. Close your eyes. Whisper softly, "This is the moment. I choose differently now." Feel the power of awareness. Feel the shift in your body. Feel the opening. Then take one small step aligned with your becoming. Just one. The loop cannot survive a single conscious step. For the moment you choose differently, you begin writing a new timeline. Chapter 7. The Fracture Point. Every journey of transformation contains a single fragile moment, a moment where the old self and the new self collide. This moment is not loud, not dramatic, not marked by signs or fanfare. It is subtle, quiet, delicate, as a hairline crack spreading through ancient glass. This moment is called the fracture point, the instant where your past identity stretches to its limit and meets the threshold of your becoming. Most people mistake the fracture point for failure. They believe the pressure means something is wrong. They believe the discomfort means they are breaking. They believe the rising tension means the journey is too much. But the fracture point is not the moment you break. It is the moment you split, the moment your old identity loosens its grip and the new identity begins to awaken. It is the pivot between who you were and who you are destined to become. The nature of the fracture. The fracture point always arrives right when you begin stretching beyond the boundaries of your familiar self. It often feels like sudden overwhelm, a collapse of motivation, emotional turbulence, self-doubt flooding the mind, physical tension, an urge to retreat, a desire to quit what you started, an irrational fear with no clear source. This moment is not a sign that you are not ready. It is the sign that your transformation has begun. The fracture point is the breaking of the shell, the moment the seed feels the soil pressing too tightly around it, just before it bursts through. The story of the glassmaker's apprentice. In a bustling coastal town lived a master glassmaker named Alvarin. His works were exquisite vases that shimmered like frozen fire, mirrors that reflected more soul than image, windows that painted rooms in colors unseen. Alvarin trained apprentices from across the land, but only one, a young man named Elion, was entrusted with learning the secret of the living glass, a technique said to reveal the inner truth of the maker. During his first attempt, Elion heated the glass until it glowed like a miniature sun, but as he shaped it, the glass trembled violently and cracked. Elion's heart sank. "I failed," he whispered. The master shook his head gently. No, the glass cracked because it reached the point where its old shape resisted becoming something new. The fracture reveals the tension between what it was and what it longs to be. Elion stared at the broken piece in his hand. "What do I do now?" he asked. "Now," the master said, "you choose. You may stop here, believing the crack is the end, or you may continue, knowing the crack is the invitation." "Invitation to what?" Elion asked. "To shape something that has never existed before." With trembling hands, Elion began again. This time, when the fracture point came, he did not stop. He breathed deeply, held his presence steady, and worked through the tension. The glass did not shatter. It transformed. And for the first time, Elion created living glass, glowing, breathing, shifting like a soul made visible. The fracture point reveals your old limit. Your loop is tied to your emotional limit, the point where your nervous system believes you can go no further. The fracture point shows you this limit with remarkable clarity. It is the alarm system of your old identity, a final attempt to pull you back into the familiar. Not because you are unworthy, but because your old self believes the familiar is safer. The fracture point is the moment before you set a boundary, before you say no to what drains you, before you accept an opportunity, before you allow love, before you choose worthiness, before you claim abundance, before you step into visibility, and just before you expand. The fracture tightens around you like an emotional vice, because your old self fears disappearance. Most people retreat at the fracture point. This is why change feels impossible. Not because change is hard, but because the fracture point tricks you into believing the discomfort is a warning instead of a threshold. People retreat here because they interpret emotional tension as danger. They misread resistance as intuition. They confuse fear with truth. They expect the new path to feel easy. They are loyal to the identity that is fading. They fear becoming someone unrecognizable. Loop resets here, not because fate is cruel, but because familiarity wins. The gift of the fracture. The fracture point is sacred. It tells you exactly where your transformation must occur. It reveals the edge of your old identity. It shows you where the unconscious self has drawn its invisible boundary. Where you fracture is where you grow. Where you tremble is where you evolve. Where you hesitate is where your new life begins. The first shift. Hold the tension. When the fracture point appears, do not flee. Do not collapse. Do not misinterpret it. Instead, pause, breathe, recognize the moment, whisper inwardly, "This is the threshold." The fracture point is not asking you to fight. It is asking you to stay. Stay conscious. Stay present. Stay aligned. Your presence dissolves the old identity's resistance. The second shift. Choose forward. Every fracture point offers two paths: retreat into the familiar, or lean into the becoming. One maintains the loop, the other breaks it. The fracture is not the end. It is the doorway. Sacred practice. Breathing through the fracture. Close your eyes. Place one hand on your heart and one on your stomach. Whisper, "I breathe through the threshold. I stand where I once collapsed. I choose the becoming." Feel the tension in your body. Feel the old identity tightening. Feel the new self rising quietly beneath it. This is the fracture point, and you are ready for it. Chapter 8. The Mirror of Experience. Every moment of your life, without exception, the universe reflects back to you the vibration you hold within. Not to punish you, not to test you, not to judge you, but to reveal you to yourself. Reality is not happening to you. Reality is happening from you. Your experiences are not random events scattered across the landscape of your life. They are mirrors, perfect, precise, uncompromising mirrors, reflecting your deepest beliefs, your emotional baseline, and your unspoken assumptions. Your life is a gallery of reflection, and every experience is a masterpiece painted by your consciousness. The universe never lies, but it never accuses. The mirror of experience is neutral. It does not blame. It does not shame. It does not demand. It simply reflects. If you carry unworthiness, life mirrors circumstances that confirm it. If you carry fear, life mirrors situations that echo it. If you carry doubt, life mirrors reasons to hesitate. If you carry expansion, life mirrors opportunities that match it. If you carry love, life mirrors relationships that reflect it. Your experiences are the vibrational echo of your internal state. The parable of the two travelers. There were once two travelers who wandered into the same ancient city. The first traveler, weary and angry from past betrayals, entered with suspicion in his heart. He noticed unfriendly faces, cold interactions, and closed doors. He left the city muttering, "This place is unkind." The second traveler arrived the next day, gentle, open-hearted, and at peace with himself. He noticed warm greetings, helpful merchants, and smiling children. He left saying, "This place is full of kindness." The city did not change. The mirror did. For experience does not show you the world, it shows you yourself. Why the mirror feels harsh. The mirror is not harsh. It is honest. It reflects what you may not yet want to see. The belief you inherited but never questioned. The emotion you feel, but never acknowledge the story you tell yourself. Without knowing the wound you carry, but never heal the identity you cling to, but no longer serve. The mirror does not reflect your wishes. It reflects your frequency. This is why you can desire abundance while experiencing lack. Why you can crave love while attracting its opposite. Why you can plan for success while repeating failure. Experience does not follow intention. Experience follows identity. The mirror reveals your loop. Because the loop is internal, the mirror becomes external proof of the loop in motion. You see the same situations repeatedly, not because life is cruel, but because your vibration is consistent. You experience the same relationships repeatedly, not because love is scarce, but because your self-concept remains unchallenged. You face the same obstacles repeatedly, not because you are blocked, but because your emotional gravity has not shifted. The mirror is the messenger, the loop is the message, and your identity is the author. The story of the Masked Festival. In a grand ancient city, once a year, people donned masks and costumes for a sacred festival. A young woman named Leora attended for the first time, wearing a mask painted with sorrow not by choice, but by habit. Throughout the festival, she noticed others treating her with pity, avoidance, or coldness. She told herself, "This is how people are." But an elder approached her and whispered, "They are not reacting to you. They are reacting to the mask you do not realize you wear." Leora touched her face and felt the mask's heaviness. She removed it. Instantly, the world around her shifted. Strangers smiled. Children waved. A warmth she had never known filled the space between her and others. The elder smiled gently. "You changed no one. You only changed what you were showing." Leora never forgot the lesson. The world mirrors the mask, even when the mask is invisible to you. Your emotional mask shapes your experience. You may not wear literal mask, but you wear emotional ones every day. Masks of distrust, guardedness, fear, self-doubt, resentment, aloofness, unworthiness, and the world responds to the mask, not the essence beneath it. Remove the mask, and the mirror changes. The mirror is not the enemy. Most people get angry at the mirror. They fight their circumstances. They resist their experiences. They argue with reality. They insist things should be different. But the mirror is your ally. It shows you what needs healing, what needs releasing, what needs awakening, what needs choosing, what needs transforming. The mirror speaks the truth with sacred clarity, not to trap you, but to free you. The first shift. Ask what the mirror reveals. When something painful or repetitive appears in your life, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What part of me is this reflecting?" This question turns you from victim to creator, from prisoner to architect, from reactive to sovereign. The second shift. Change the mask before the mirror. Do not try to change your experience first. Change your internal state. Do not try to alter the reflection. Alter the vibration. You cannot change the mirror by touching the glass. You change the mirror by shifting the one standing before it. Sacred practice. The mirror of presence. Sit quietly. Close your eyes. Imagine your life as a vast mirror surrounding you. Ask gently, "What does this mirror say about my identity? What emotion is it reflecting? What belief is it showing me? What mask have I forgotten I am wearing?" Whatever arises, welcome it without judgment. For once you understand the reflection, you are ready to choose a new image. And when you choose a new internal image, the universe has no choice but to reflect it. Chapter 9. The Pattern Keepers. Every life contains characters who seem to arrive with uncanny precision, partners who echo old wounds, bosses who trigger the same insecurities, friends who mirror familiar patterns, situations that unfold like déjà vu, wearing a new costume. These people, these roles, these repeating dynamics are not coincidences. They are pattern keepers, unconscious collaborators in the theater of your evolution. They are not here to punish you. They are not here to block you. They are not here to diminish you. They are here to hold the frequency of the old self until you are ready to release it. Pattern keepers appear not because you are cursed, but because your loop is active. They are the actors cast in your internal script, reflecting the vibration you carry, the story you have not yet rewritten, the self-concept you still inhabit beneath your conscious desires. They serve a purpose so profound, so precise, that when you awaken to their role, your entire perspective shifts. The silent contracts. Every pattern in your life is supported by a silent contract, an agreement your unconscious self made long before your conscious self realized it existed. Some contracts say, I must overgive to be loved. I must stay small to feel safe. I must be useful to be wanted. I must be agreeable to be accepted. I must hide parts of myself to avoid rejection. Pattern keepers are the people who unknowingly uphold these contracts. They speak to the version of you who wrote the original agreement, not the version of you striving to break free. This is why you feel like two people, one who wants to grow and one who keeps slipping back, one who desires expansion and one who craves the familiar comfort of old roles, one who whispers, I am ready, and one who whispers, but what if I'm not? The pattern keepers reinforce the second voice, not maliciously, not intentionally, simply because they are aligned with your old vibration. The tale of the twin actors. In a grand ancient city, two actors, Arne and Lisa, performed a play each night in the Royal Theatre. The play was so beloved, so familiar, that the audience expected every line, every gesture, every moment. One day, Arne grew restless. I want to change my role, he told Lisa. I want to perform a different story. Lisa nodded thoughtfully. Then change it, she said. But when the curtain rose the next night, Arne hesitated. He began in the same old way, reciting the same opening lines. Lisa, watching him falter, stepped into her usual role, because that is what she had always done. After the show, Arne sat backstage, frustrated. I couldn't change, he muttered, because you didn't change with me. Lisa smiled softly. My role responds to your role, she said. If you say your old lines, I must respond in the only way the script knows. Arne realized then that the play would never change until he changed first. And only when he consistently embodied his new character would Lisa naturally shift into her new role. Your pattern keepers are waiting on you. People around you respond to the identity you hold, not the identity you want, but the identity you broadcast through your vibration, your boundaries, and your emotional baseline. Once you shift your internal state consistently, pattern keepers can no longer play the same role. They will fall away, shift their behavior, transform their dynamic, or leave your story entirely. But they cannot do so until you commit to your new identity. The universe does not remove pattern keepers until you remove the pattern. Why they feel so familiar. You may find yourself drawn to the same kind of partner, the same type of friend, the same dynamics with authority figures, the same emotional experiences in relationships, the same push-pull of trust and fear. This familiarity is not your intuition. It is your nervous system gravitating toward what it recognizes. Pattern keepers are emotionally familiar, even if the familiarity is uncomfortable. Your mind seeks novelty, but your nervous system seeks sameness. And so you choose what feels emotionally known, even when it is painful. The sensation of home that isn't home. The greatest trick of the loop is that it makes dysfunction feel like home. This is why you stay in cycles that drain you. This is why you tolerate behaviors that harm you. This is why you attract relationships that echo your past. Pattern keepers mirror the emotional template your subconscious has memorized. To break the loop, you must create a new emotional template, not through force, but through awareness. The first shift. See the pattern keepers without blame. You cannot break the cycle by blaming the actors. You break it by rewriting the script. Next time someone triggers you, disappoints you, or repeats a familiar dynamic, ask, what pattern are they keeping alive? What part of me are they mirroring? What contract are they upholding? The moment you see the pattern keeper loses their power. For they were never here to control you, only to reveal you. The second shift. Choose a new role. Pattern keepers cannot continue playing their part when you stop playing yours. If you step out of the people-pleaser role, the rescuer role, the invisible role, the submissive role, the fixer role, the overgiver role, the self-sacrificing role, the dynamics must change, because the script cannot continue without your participation. Sacred practice. Bless the pattern. Keepers, tonight, sit quietly. Bring to mind a person who reflects a recurring pattern in your life. Place your hand on your heart. Whisper, "Thank you for showing me my loop. Your role is complete now." Feel gratitude. Feel release. Feel the shift. For blessing, the pattern keeper frees you from the pattern, and in that freedom, your new life begins. Chapter 10. The Silent Agreements. There are agreements you made long before you had words. Agreements shaped not by logic, but by emotion. Not by choice, but by survival. These agreements, formed in the background of your early experiences, tiny decisions about who you must be in order to stay safe, to stay loved, to stay accepted, to stay invisible, to stay small, to stay tolerated. These invisible commitments became the architecture of your identity. They live beneath your thoughts, beneath your memories, beneath your conscious desires. They are the contracts you never signed but have lived by your entire life. These are the silent agreements, the hidden vows that keep you repeating your loop, the birth of an unseen contract. Before you could speak, you learned the emotional terms of your belonging. You learned which parts of you were welcomed, which parts of you were ignored, which parts of you were scolded, which parts of you were rewarded, which parts of you were too loud, which parts of you were too honest, which parts of you were too emotional, which parts of you were too much, which parts of you were not enough. And like all children, you internalized these conditions without question. You did not know how to negotiate, so you conformed. You did not know how to reject expectations, so you became them. You did not know how to preserve yourself, so you sacrificed parts of yourself. And each sacrifice became an agreement. Examples of silent agreements. You may be living under agreements such as, "I agree to never disappoint anyone. I agree to never ask for help. I agree to be the strong one. I agree to make others comfortable. I agree to stay quiet, to stay safe. I agree to earn love by fixing others. I agree to hide my needs. I agree to expect little so I won't be hurt. I agree to shrink so no one feels threatened. I agree to survive by abandoning myself." These agreements shape the trajectory of your life. They determine your choices, your relationships, your success, your emotional baseline, your boundaries, your identity. They are the foundation beneath your loop. The story of the candle keeper. In a small fog-covered village lived a young woman named Selene, the daughter of the village's candle keeper. Each night she watched her father light candles in every home, ensuring the town remained warm and bright. Her father taught her a simple rule: the village needs light, so we must give everything we have. As she grew older, Selene continued the tradition, pouring her wax and fire into every home. But unlike her father, she never kept a candle for herself. Villagers praised her. "What generosity," they said. "What selflessness." But Selene's home remained dark, cold, and empty. One night, an old traveler arrived and watched as Selene went door to door, giving away her last candle. When she returned home in darkness, the traveler asked gently, "Why do you not keep even a single flame for your own house?" Selene frowned. "It would be selfish," she said. "I was taught that my worth comes from how much light I give others." The traveler leaned close. "And who taught you that your own fire must be extinguished for others to see?" Selene froze. Her father had never spoken those words. She had created that agreement herself, born from love, born from the desire to be good, born from misunderstanding. The next night, the traveler handed her a small lantern. "This flame is yours," he whispered. "Let the village see how much brighter you shine when you are lit from within." And so Selene lit her own home first. The village was brighter than ever, not because she gave more, but because she finally agreed to stop giving herself away. Why? Silent agreements are so hard to break. Silent agreements live in your nervous system. They are infused with emotional memory. Breaking them feels dangerous, even when they harm you. Because to break a silent agreement, you must violate the internal rule that once kept you safe. You must disappoint someone, ask for what you need, say no, stop fixing what is not yours, stop shrinking, stop overgiving, stop explaining, stop apologizing for existing. Breaking these agreements feels like betrayal, not of others, but of the small version of you that created them. The first shift. Identify the agreement. When you feel resistance, pause and ask, what am I unconsciously agreeing to right now? You might discover agreements like, I agree to never rest, I agree to stay invisible, I agree to settle, I agree to hold everyone else's emotional weight. Naming the agreement breaks its spell. For what is unconscious controls you. What becomes conscious frees you. The second shift. Renegotiate the contract. You do not break a silent agreement by force. You break it by replacing it. Instead of saying, I will never overgive again, say, I agree to honor myself. First, instead of, I will stop shrinking, say, I agree to expand, even when it feels unfamiliar. Instead of, I must not disappoint anyone, say, I agree to live in alignment, not obligation. This is how the contract rewrites itself. Sacred practice, the release of the old agreement. Sit in stillness. Put both hands over your heart. Whisper, I release the agreements I made from fear. I choose the agreements born of truth. Feel the shift in your chest. Feel the old vows loosening. Feel your identity expanding. For silent agreements lose their power the moment you speak a new truth into being, and every new agreement becomes a doorway out of the loop that has held you for far too long. Chapter 11. The Identity Disruption. Every lasting transformation begins with an identity disruption, a moment when the story you have told yourself for years begins to tremble, fracture, and loosen its grip. Identity is not who you are, but who you believe you must be in order to survive the world you inherited. It is a costume woven by childhood, stitched by patterns, colored by old emotions, and reinforced by repetition. Your loop persists because your identity persists. No matter how fiercely you try to change your habits, your life will always return to the shape of who you believe you are. Identity is the mold. Experience is the molten metal. Life hardens into the form you hold inside. To break the loop, you must disrupt the mold. Identity is not conscious. It is emotional. You may believe identity is found in your thoughts, your memories, your personality traits. But identity lives deeper in the emotional fabric of your being. Identity is the frequency you return to, the emotion you carry as home, the belief you hold about your worth, the expectations you place on your future, the story your nervous system repeats. Identity is felt long before it is understood. This is why so many people change their goals, but not their lives. They rearrange the furniture, but keep the same house. The Tale of the Night Garden. There was once a woman named Mara who tended a magnificent garden that bloomed only under moonlight. The flowers glowed with hues unseen in daylight: silver blues, shimmering violets, deep lunar golds. Each evening Mara welcomed travelers to witness this rare beauty. But despite the praise and wonder she received, she believed to her core that she was ordinary, unremarkable, and easily overlooked. One night, an elderly wanderer approached Mara after the viewing. "Your garden is unlike anything in this world," he said. Mara bowed her head. "It's the plants, not me." The wanderer studied her with wise, soft eyes. "Who taught you to separate your creation from yourself?" Mara blinked in confusion. "The garden reflects you," he continued. "It blooms because you do. It glows because you carry the light it responds to." Mara felt tears rise. The blooms. Wanderer touched the petals of a silver-blue flower. "These blossoms are your soul made visible," he whispered. "But you cannot tend a garden of moonlight with the belief that you are dim." That night, Mara walked through her garden and saw something she had never noticed. Before each flower opened a little wider when she passed. She was not ordinary. Her identity was simply too small to hold her truth. The next morning, Mara whispered 3 words she had never dared to speak. "I am luminous." And the garden bloomed even in daylight. Identity is the beginning of all loops. Your loop repeats because your identity repeats. If you unconsciously identify as the one who always sacrifices, the one who always struggles, the one who always fails at the finish line, the one who must be strong, the one who is invisible, the one who is not enough, the one who is too much, the one who must earn love, your reality organizes itself around that identity, not to limit you, but to remain loyal to the story you hold. Identity creates expectation. Expectation creates vibration. Vibration creates experience. Identity disruption feels like loss. When you begin shifting your identity, you may feel disoriented, uncertain, ungrounded, untethered, emotional, vulnerable, strangely empty. This emptiness is not a void, it is spaciousness. The old identity is dissolving. The new identity is not yet formed. You stand in the in-between, and this in-between is sacred. It is the chrysalis of the soul. Why you resist becoming someone new. Identity disruption triggers ancient fears, because to the nervous system, unfamiliar equals unsafe. New equals uncertain. Expansion equals unpredictability. The body would rather stay small than risk the unknown. This is why you sabotage progress. Not because you lack discipline, but because your identity fears extinction. The old self wants to live. It pulls you back into patterns to ensure its survival. Transformation threatens the old identity's existence, so it resists with the full force of habit, emotion, and internal dialogue. The first shift. Witness the old identity without attachment. Instead of fighting your old identity, simply watch it. Observe its thoughts. Observe its reactions. Observe its patterns. Observe its fears. Observe its assumptions. And whisper gently, "This is who I was, not who I am." Awareness is the first crack in the identity structure. Presence is the hammer. Compassion is the chisel. The second shift. Embody micro-identities. You do not leap from one identity to another. You shift in subtle micro-steps. Ask, who would I be if I increased this identity by 1%? 1% more self-worth. 1% more confidence. 1% more visibility. 1% more trust. 1% more receiving. 1% more authenticity. Micro-identities become macro-identities. You change your life in millimeters, not miles. Sacred practice. The identity. Invocation. Sit quietly. Place your hand over your heart. Whisper, "I release the identity built from fear. I rise into the identity built from truth." Now imagine a version of yourself standing before you, confident, luminous, unbound, already living the life you yearn for. Ask this version, "What do you believe about yourself that I do not yet believe?" Listen. Feel the truth of their answer. This is the identity you are becoming. This is the loop's undoing. You disrupt the loop the moment you disrupt the identity that created it. Chapter 12. Vibration before vision. There is a sacred law woven into the fabric of creation. Emotion precedes form. Vibration precedes manifestation. Feeling precedes seeing. The world teaches you to plan, visualize, strategize, organize, to shape your external life through external effort. But manifestation begins long before the vision board, long before the goal, long before the plan. It begins with vibration. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. What you vibrate. What you feel consistently. What you embody emotionally. This is the forgotten truth. Your emotional frequency is the blueprint your future follows. The universe responds to your emotion, not your thought. Thoughts are signals, but emotions are magnetism. Thoughts paint possibilities. Emotions pull them into reality. You can tell yourself you are worthy. But if your emotional body holds unworthiness, the universe mirrors the emotion, not the affirmation. You can picture abundance, but if your vibration holds scarcity, abundance cannot land. You can envision love, but if your emotional baseline is fear, love cannot settle. Vibration is the foundation. Vision is the architecture built upon it. The tale of the sand painter. In a hidden desert temple lived a revered sand painter named Harun. He was known for creating vast mandalas that shimmered like galaxies across the stone floors. Each mandala began the same way, not with design, but with stillness. One day, a young apprentice, eager to impress him, rushed to begin her first mandala. She drew intricate lines with precision, imagining that technical mastery alone would produce beauty. But as she poured colors into her design, the grains scattered chaotically. The pattern collapsed. The symmetry dissolved. Frustrated, she asked Harun, "What did I do wrong?" Harun knelt beside her and touched the scattered sand. "You began with the picture in your mind," he said, "but the sand responds to the vibration of your body." He placed his hand over her heart. "You held tension," he whispered. "You held fear of imperfection. The sand followed your feeling, not your image." He guided her to sit. "Before you shape the sand," he said, "you must shape your vibration." Together, they breathed in silence. When she felt peace fill her body, Harun told her, "Begin again." And this time, the sand flowed like water. Patterns formed effortlessly. Colors harmonized. The mandala bloomed with a beauty that surpassed all technique. "Remember," Harun said, "form responds to frequency. Why your vision does not manifest. Most people create from the mind, not from the heart. They imagine success while vibrating with fear. They imagine love while vibrating with doubt. They imagine abundance while vibrating with lack. This mismatch creates static in the field. The signal cannot travel. The blueprint cannot stabilize. The vision cannot land. Your vibration must precede your vision, or your vision remains only a dream. Vision without vibration is empty. You can visualize all day, but if your emotional baseline contradicts the vision, the universe receives the emotional frequency, not the mental image. Vision is the request. Vibration is the signature. The universe needs both to deliver. The emotional template. Every manifestation requires an emotional template, a consistent, internal feeling that becomes the gravitational pull for your future. Ask yourself, what emotion would I feel if my vision were already real? Confidence, peace, security, joy, abundance, freedom, self-trust, worthiness. These emotions are not byproducts of the vision, they are prerequisites. You must feel them first. You must embody them before. You must become them now. Then the vision has no choice but to follow. The mistake of forcing the vision. When you try to force a goal into existence, you create resistance. Forcing indicates fear. Fear indicates misalignment. Misalignment disrupts the field. You cannot create with clenched fists. You cannot manifest through tension. You cannot birth a new timeline from the vibration of the old one. You must shift your vibration first. Then action becomes effortless. Then opportunities flow. Then synchronicities appear. Then pathways open. The first shift. Feeling into the future. Instead of asking, "What do I want to create?" ask, "How do I want to feel in the life I am creating?" This emotional clarity becomes your compass, your guide, your vibration. Your future begins as a feeling. The second shift, daily emotional attunement. Spend 5 minutes each morning attuning your emotional frequency. Close your eyes. Sit with your breath. Invite the feeling of the desired future into your body. Not the vision, the feeling. Let your cells remember it. Let your breath carry it. Let your nervous system imprint it. This is how you shift timelines. This is how you break patterns. This is how you manifest with precision. Sacred practice. The frequency of becoming. Sit in silence. Place your hand over your heart. Whisper, "I feel now what my future will reflect." Invite the emotional signature of your future self into your body. Feel the calm. Feel the abundance. Feel the love. Feel the trust. Feel the expansion. Stay with it. This feeling is the bridge. This vibration is the instruction. This frequency is the architect. Vision follows. Vibration. Form follows feeling. Reality follows resonance. This is the law behind all creation. Chapter 13. The repetition of a new reality. There is a moment in every transformation when you stand on the threshold of a new life, feeling the spark of possibility, the whisper of expansion, the first taste of freedom. But here lies a truth most seekers overlook. A new reality is not born from a single shift, but from repeated alignment. Just as the old identity built itself through repetition, the new self must be established through the steady echo of consistent beingness. It is not enough to glimpse your potential once. You must return to it again and again, until it becomes more familiar than the past you are leaving behind. Repetition is not a prison. Repetition is a portal. Why the old reality returns so easily? Your old reality is constructed from years, sometimes decades, of emotional repetition. Habitual thoughts, habitual feelings, habitual reactions, habitual beliefs, habitual narratives. These patterns are not strong because they are true. They are strong because they are familiar. Familiarity builds stability. Stability becomes identity. Identity shapes reality. This is why the loop feels unbreakable. Your nervous system trusts the familiar more than it trusts the possible, and so it gravitates back toward whatever you have repeated the most. To break the loop, you must make the new more familiar than the old. This is not done through force, but through consistency. The tale of the mountain drummer. In a remote mountain village lived a young boy named Kaito, known for his desire to summon the legendary sky echo, a mythical sound said to awaken dormant destinies. Old stories claimed the sky echo could be heard only by those whose hearts beat in perfect resonance with their truth. Kaito spent days striking his drum with power and intensity, hoping strength alone would unlock the sacred sound. But nothing came. Weeks passed. His hands blistered. His spirit dimmed. One evening, an elderly drummer approached him and watched silently. "You strike with force," the elder said, "but you do not strike with repeatability." Kaito frowned. "What do you mean?" "The sky echo is not summoned by strength," the elder explained. "It is summoned by rhythm, by persistence, by devotion to the beat of your becoming." He took Kaito's drum and struck it gently with a steady, repeating pulse. The sound began to shift, to widen, to deepen. A soft vibration filled the air, spreading across the mountains like a dream awakening. Kaito gasped. "You didn't hit it hard." "No, the elder smiled. I hit it true, again and again, until the world could not help but respond. From that day on, Kaito practiced not with intensity, but with presence, returning to his rhythm each sunrise. Weeks later, the sky echo answered. His destiny unlocked not through force, but through repeated alignment. Repetition creates identity. You do not become your highest self in a single moment of insight. You become them through repetition, through daily attunement, through repeated choices, through consistent embodiment, through gentle, unwavering return to your truth. Each time you choose the new version of yourself, the old version loses strength. Each time you repeat your aligned action, the old pattern fades. Each time you embody your future identity, the loop dissolves. Repetition is the sacred hammer that reshapes the mold of your self-concept. Why consistency feels unnatural at first. When you first step into a new reality, it feels uncomfortable. It feels awkward. It feels unfamiliar. It feels unsteady. Not because it is wrong, but because your nervous system is learning a new rhythm. Your mind knows the new reality is better. Your soul knows it is truer. But your body still clings to what it has repeated for years. This is why you feel pulled back into old patterns. Not because you lack discipline, but because your identity is recalibrating. And recalibration requires repetition. The first shift. Choose the new reality daily. Ask yourself each morning, who am I choosing to be today? Then choose consciously. The new identity must be reaffirmed daily until it becomes automatic. Each day is a brushstroke. Each choice is a seed. Each repetition is a root growing deeper. The second shift. Replace the old loop with micro-repetitions. Transformation does not require grand rituals. It requires repeating a new belief, repeating a new emotion, repeating a new boundary, repeating a new behavior, repeating a new interpretation, repeating a new internal narrative. Micro-repetitions become macro-reality. You ascend not by leaps, but by devotion, sacred practice, the rhythm of becoming. Sit in stillness. Place your hand on your heart. Whisper, I return, I return, I return to the truth of who I am becoming. Feel the vibration of these words. Repeat them until your breath synchronizes with your intention. This is the repetition that rewires. This is the rhythm that reprograms. This is the echo that shapes your new timeline. The loop does not break from trying. It breaks from consistent embodiment of the new self. Repetition is your doorway. Stepping through it each day is your liberation. Chapter 14. The collapse of the old timeline. There is a moment in your awakening when the old timeline begins to collapse quietly, at first, then unmistakably, as if the universe itself begins rearranging the architecture of your life. This collapse is not destruction. It is liberation. It is the unraveling of everything that was built from fear, scarcity, survival, and outdated identity. It is the dissolving of patterns that no longer resonate with your frequency. The fading of people who cannot match your new vibration. The ending of cycles you have long outgrown. The collapse feels like loss, but it is space being created. It feels like uncertainty, but it is clarity being born. It feels like endings, but it is the doorways opening to new beginnings. The old timeline cannot survive your awakening. Your old timeline was constructed from unconscious agreements, inherited beliefs, emotional gravity, unexamined wounds, outdated self-concepts, familiar suffering. As you rise in vibration, each element of the old timeline begins to crack. Not because something is wrong, but because you are no longer compatible with the frequency that created it. The old timeline collapses because your consciousness has outgrown its structure. The tale of the shifting bridge. In a kingdom of mist-covered lakes stood an ancient bridge made of stone. It connected the old village on the eastern shore with a new, thriving land on the west. For centuries, villagers crossed the bridge without fear, trusting its solidity. But one day, a young woman named Lucine began her journey across, drawn by a vision of a better life. Halfway through, she felt the stones beneath her tremble. Cracks splintered beneath her feet. The bridge shook violently. Chunks of stone tumbled into the water below. Lucine froze in terror. She turned back toward the old village, but the path behind her had crumbled too. Only the far end of the bridge remained intact. In panic, she cried out, "What is happening?" An old wanderer on the western shore called back, "The bridge collapses because you chose to cross it." Lucine's heart raced. "Why would my choice destroy it?" The wanderer replied, "Because the old world cannot hold you once you choose the new one." Lucine stepped forward, trembling. With each step, more of the bridge behind her fell away until she reached the new land. When she looked back, the bridge had vanished completely, and for the first time, she felt free. This is the truth. When you choose a new identity, the structures holding the old one cannot remain. Relationships shift, jobs end, habits dissolve, old desires fade, new paths appear, patterns collapse, timelines split. This is the spiritual physics of transformation. The collapse often looks like chaos. Most people interpret the collapse as, "Something's going wrong. I'm losing everything. I'm falling apart. My life is worse than before. Everything is breaking." But the collapse is not chaos. It's cleansing. The universe is removing what you no longer align with, not as punishment, but as preparation. Your old timeline must fall, so your new timeline can rise. Why the collapse feels terrifying. When the old timeline collapses, your nervous system panics. Because collapse feels like unfamiliarity, uncertainty, unpredictability, loss of control, emotional exposure. But these sensations are not warnings. They are symptoms of rebirth. Your body reacts not because you're in danger, but because you're leaving the emotional environment it has always known. Growth feels unsafe to the nervous system, even when it is right. The first shift: do not rebuild the old timeline. In moments of collapse, you may feel a strong urge to return to old relationships, rekindle old habits, go back to old jobs, reconnect with old versions of yourself, cling to familiarity. This urge is not intuition. It is emotional gravity. Do not rebuild what life is asking you to outgrow. When the old timeline crumbles, let it fall. Let the endings end. Let the unravelings unravel. Let the past slip away, for its collapse is your crossing. The second shift: anchor into the new frequency. As the old timeline dissolves, anchor yourself in the vibration of the future self. Ask, how would the version of me I am becoming handle this moment? Breathe into that answer. Let it guide you. Let it shape your choices. Let it rewrite your reflexes. For the new timeline forms the moment you stop reacting from the past. The collapse creates space for alignment. When the old timeline falls away, it creates space for new connections, space for new opportunities, space for new desires, space for new emotional patterns, space for new versions of you. The collapse is the clearing. Your new life needs room to grow. Sacred practice: the timeline. Surrender. Sit in silence. Place your hand over your heart. Whisper, "I release what is collapsing. I trust what is emerging." Visualize the old timeline, dissolving like sand, washed away by gentle waves. See yourself stepping onto a new shore, one you have not yet walked, but have always belonged to. Feel the relief. Feel the opening. Feel the becoming. For once the old timeline collapses, you are free to rise into your next evolution. Chapter 15. Self-betrayal and course correction. There comes a moment in every seeker's journey when they confront the most painful truth of all. The person who has betrayed you the most is the version of you who abandoned your own inner knowing. Not because you were weak, not because you were flawed, not because you didn't care, but because you learned early that betraying yourself was the cost of belonging. Self-betrayal is not a character flaw. It is a survival strategy, one that once protected you, but now keeps you locked inside the loop you long to escape. To break the cycle, to rewrite your timeline, to reclaim your power, you must learn the sacred art of course correction. Not punishment, not shame, not self-judgment. Course correction is mercy. Course correction is alignment. Course correction is the moment you choose yourself again. The many faces of self-betrayal. Self-betrayal does not always roar. Often, it whispers. It whispers when you say yes, while your body screams no. Tolerate less than you deserve. Silence your truth to keep the peace. Shrink so others can feel comfortable. Abandon your boundaries to avoid conflict. Settle for relationships that match your wounds, not your worth. Break promises to yourself, but keep every promise to others. Dim your light, because someone else fears brightness. Hold on to people who let you go long ago. Ignore the intuition that has never once lied to you. These small betrayals accumulate over years. They shape your identity. They form your emotional baseline. They reinforce your loop. For the universe does not reflect what you say. You want it reflects what you allow. Self-betrayal teaches the universe. This is what I am available for. Course correction teaches the universe. Never again. The tale of the silent violin. In a candlelit attic overlooking a quiet river lived a violinist named Elise. Her gift was remarkable, a sound so pure that even the wind paused to listen. But Elise rarely played in public. Whenever she felt inspired, a familiar voice inside whispered, "Don't stand out. Don't be too much. Don't draw attention." So she hid her violin beneath her bed and tuned herself instead to the expectations of others. Years passed, and she played only in secret. One evening, while rummaging through the town market, she met a traveling musician who carried a violin etched with moonlit patterns. He watched her gaze linger on the instrument. "You play," he said, not as a question, but as a knowing. Elise looked away. "Not anymore." The musician smiled sadly. "That is not the truth," he said. "That is the wound." He placed his violin in her hands. "Play one note." Elise felt panic rise. Her hands trembled. Her breath caught. But when she drew the bow across the string, a sound emerged, fragile but luminous. Tears welled in her eyes. The musician nodded gently. "That sound," he whispered, "is who you are. Every time you silence it, you betray your soul." Elise understood. The betrayal was never in the mistakes she feared. The betrayal was in the music she denied. From that day on, Elise made a vow. No more silence, no more shrinking, no more abandoning her own melody. By choosing herself again and again, her music returned bolder and more radiant than ever. Why self-betrayal feels so familiar. You betray yourself because it once made you safe. It once prevented conflict. It once kept you connected. It once protected your heart. It once preserved relationships. Self-betrayal is not your enemy. It is your younger self's attempt to survive. But the strategies of survival are not the strategies of expansion. What kept you safe cannot lead you to your destiny. The emotional cost of abandoning yourself. Every act of self-betrayal widens the gap between your truth and your choices, your desire and your actions, your intuition and your behavior, your potential and your reality. This gap becomes anxiety, resentment, numbness, exhaustion, confusion, stagnation, despair. But the worst consequence is this: you begin to distrust yourself. When you break promises to yourself, something inside you learns not to believe your own words. This internal rupture weakens your manifestation, your confidence, your intuition, and your self-concept. The good news? Self-trust is rebuilt, the same way it was broken, one decision at a time. Course correction is not overcorrection. Course correction is not dramatic. It is gentle. It is subtle. It is sacred. It sounds like, I choose differently now. I listen to myself. I honor what I feel. I return to my truth. I correct my course with compassion. Course correction is the art of realigning without shame. The old self shames you for straying. The new self guides you back with grace. The first shift. Name the betrayal without judging it. Ask yourself, where have I abandoned myself today? Not as an accusation, as awareness. Awareness restores power. Judgment destroys it. The second shift. Choose one self-honoring action, not 10, not a complete life overhaul, just one. One boundary, one honest choice, one moment of courage, one truth spoken aloud, one no that means I matter, one yes that means I am worthy. Each self-honoring action becomes a brick in the foundation of your new identity. Sacred practice, the oath of return. Sit with your spine tall. Place your hand over your heart. Whisper, I return to myself. I choose myself. I honor myself. And when I stray, I will course correct, not collapse. Feel the warmth in your chest. Feel the strength rising. Feel the old patterns loosening. For every act of self-honoring collapses a piece of the loop, and every act of course correction guides you toward the timeline you were born to walk. Chapter 16. The Future Self Consortium. In the vast architecture of your consciousness, there exists not one version of you, but many. Each possibility, each timeline, each potential identity exists as a living to mean more vibrational pattern in the quantum field. And among these infinite versions, one shines brightest, the future self who has already broken your loop, already healed your wounds, already embodied your highest frequency, already lives the life your soul aches to experience. This version of you is not imaginary. It is not symbolic. It is not conceptual. It is real. A vibrational counterpart existing in quantum resonance, waiting for you to align with its frequency. This collection of expanded versions of you, guiding, whispering, nudging forms what mystics call the Future Self Consortium. Your future self already exists. Your highest timeline is not something you create. It is something you choose. It already exists in the dimension of possibility. It already vibrates in the signature of your potential. It already knows the path beyond your patterns. You are not manifesting a new self. You are remembering one. The future is not ahead of you. It is within you, waiting for resonance. The tale of the inner library. In an ancient city of marble towers lived a scholar named Thalen, guardian of the legendary Library of Echoes. The library held not books, but shimmering mirrors, each one reflecting a different version of the person who gazed into it. One day, a young seeker named Arya entered the library, hoping to understand her destiny. Thalen guided her to a long hallway lined with mirrors. In each reflection, he explained, is a version of you shaped by a choice, a belief, a frequency. Arya stepped hesitantly before the first mirror. She saw a dim, uncertain woman, her shoulders curved inward, her eyes tired, her spirit small. This is who you become, Thalen said, if you continue choosing from fear. Arya stepped to the next mirror. A slightly brighter version appeared, still hesitant, but learning to breathe again. This is who you become if you choose courage once. Mirror after mirror, Arya watched her future selves transform, growing stronger, clearer, more radiant. At the final mirror, her breath caught. She saw a woman of breathtaking presence, eyes alive with knowing, posture regal with self-trust, a heart glowing like dawn. This, Thalen whispered, is the version of you who has remembered her power. Arya looked to him with trembling hope. How do I become her? Thalen smiled. You do not become her. You align with her. You choose as she would choose. You speak as she would speak. You act as she would act. And step by step, you walk into the reflection. Arya understood. The mirrors were not predictions. They were invitations. You are already connected to your future self. Your future self speaks to you through intuition, synchronicities, sudden clarity, repeated signs, emotional breakthroughs, inner knowing, dreams, whispers of something more. These are not coincidences. They are the frequency of your future self stretching across timelines to guide you forward. You have always felt this presence, the version of you who calls you to rise. Why you haven't fully aligned. Yet, you slow the process because you identify more with who you have been. You cling to the emotional gravity of the past. You fear losing relationships built on your earlier identity. You resist discomfort. You doubt your worthiness. You hesitate at the fracture point. You cling to the old timeline. But your future self is stronger than your fear. Every step toward alignment is a step toward remembering who you always were. How to align with your future self. Alignment is not an act of imagination. It is an act of embodiment. Ask yourself, what does my future self believe about themselves that I do not yet believe? What does my future self no longer tolerate? How does my future self handle conflict? What does my future self invest their time in? How does my future self speak to themselves? What emotion does my future self carry as normal? Your future self becomes accessible the moment you begin living as though you already are them. Identity is not changed by intention. Identity is changed by imitation of your highest timeline until it becomes your default frequency. The first shift. Micro-embodiment. Choose one future self-action each day. One boundary. One aligned choice. One moment of speaking truth. One act of courage. One self-honoring decision. One vibration that feels expansive. Every micro-action is a vote for the identity you are stepping into. The second shift. Emotional resonance. Your future self is not a concept. It is a vibration. Feel into the emotional signature of your future. Is it grounded? Is it free? Is it joyful? Is it confident? Is it peaceful? Is it abundant? Is it certain? Hold that vibration in your body. This is the bridge that closes the gap between timelines. Sacred practice. The future self-communion. Close your eyes. Sit with slow, deep breath. Visualize your future self standing before you, radiant, calm, powerful, already living the life you desire. Ask aloud or silently, what do you need me to know right now? Listen. The answer will come as a feeling, a word, an image, or a knowing. Now whisper, I choose to walk toward you. Feel the timelines merging. Feel the resonance aligning. Feel the old self loosening. Feel the new identity settling in your bones. For the moment you commit to your future self, your loop begins to dissolve. Your destiny is not ahead of you. It is waiting for your alignment. Chapter 17. The repetition of a new reality. There is a subtle moment in your transformation when something extraordinary begins to occur. Not loud, not dramatic, not accompanied by fireworks or miracles. It happens quietly like a sunrise that slips over the horizon before anyone has noticed. It is the moment when your new reality begins to repeat itself. At first, this repetition feels fragile, inconsistent, and delicate, like the faint heartbeat of a reality learning how to breathe. Moments of alignment appear like soft glimmers, a sudden burst of confidence, a conversation where you speak your truth, a small but undeniable win, a moment of peace where you once felt chaos. And then, you slip You fall back into the old pattern. The loop regains its grip. You question everything. Do not mistake this moment for failure. It is simply the stage between identities when the new reality is forming its rhythm. Just as your old reality was built through repetition, your new reality must be rehearsed until it becomes the dominant frequency. In this lies the secret few understand. Transformation is not a single event. It is a repeated alignment. Why the new feels fake at first. When you begin shifting into a new identity, it feels unreal not because it is untrue, but because it is unfamiliar. The nervous system clings to what it knows, even if what it knows is painful. So the early moments of newness feel like, I'm pretending. This isn't really me. I don't deserve this. I won't be able to maintain this. These thoughts are not truth. They are echoes, the remnants of an identity dissolving. Your old self is not fighting you. It is fading. And in its fading, it releases its final whispers. The tale of the growing echo. In a mountain monastery lived a young novice named Irel, who yearned to hear the legendary inner echo, a resonance said to awaken once one's spirit aligned with truth. Each morning she would enter the meditation hall, sit in stillness, and listen. At first, she heard nothing except the noise of her own thoughts. Weeks passed, months passed, still nothing. Then one twilight, she heard a faint hum so soft, she wasn't sure it was real. "Master," she whispered to the elder monk, "I think I heard the echo, but only for a moment." The elder nodded knowingly. "The echo does not arrive fully formed," he said. "It emerges faintly, then disappears. It returns, then leaves again. Not because it is weak, but because you must match its rhythm before it can stay." "How do I match it?" Irel asked. "By returning to the stillness again and again," he said. "The echo grows louder with repetition." Irel continued her practice, and the hum returned, not every day at first, but often enough to confirm it was real. And one morning, she sat down, breathed deeply, and the echo filled the hall with a sound so radiant she wept. It stayed because she stayed. Your new reality works the same way. The beginning is always fragmented. Moments of clarity, followed by old confusion. Moments of courage, followed by old fear. Moments of worthiness, followed by old doubt. But with repetition, the new moments become more frequent, stronger, longer lasting. Until suddenly, they are not moments anymore, they are your normal. Every time you return to the new vibration, you amplify it. You stabilize it. You deepen it. Repetition rewires your identity. Why the loop tries to pull you back? The loop does not resist because it is powerful. It resists because it is habitual. Habits want to survive. Patterns want to persist. Familiar emotions want to remain relevant. But the loop cannot overpower you once you commit to the rhythm of your becoming. Because your loop is repetition, and repetition can be rewritten. The power of consistent return. You do not need to be aligned all the time. You only need to return to alignment. Return to clarity. Return to presence. Return to worthiness. Return to courage. Return to your truth. Every return is a declaration. This is who I choose to be. And the universe listens. The universe listens every time you try again. Every time you catch yourself and recalibrate. Every time you choose the new, when the old rises in your chest. Repetition is devotion, and devotion redefines destiny. The first shift. Repeat the new emotion. Ask yourself, what emotion would my future self wake up in? Then feel 2 minutes of that emotion each day. Just 2. Repetition is what matters. Your emotional baseline does not change through breakthroughs. It changes through consistency. The second shift. Celebrate the flickers. Do not dismiss your brief wins. They are proof of rewiring. The old self will say, "It was just luck. It won't happen again. It doesn't mean anything." But the new self whispers, "This is evidence. This is resonance." This is the beginning of repetition. What you celebrate expands. What you repeat becomes real. Sacred practice, the return ritual. Each night, sit quietly, place a hand on your heart. Whisper, "I return to the truth of who I am becoming." See the future self within you. Feel their vibration. Let your body remember. Return, return, return. For the new reality becomes permanent when returning to it becomes natural. Chapter 18. Emotional Recalibration. There is a frequency you have lived inside for most of your life, a vibrational home constructed from your earliest memories, your deepest wounds, and the emotions you learn to carry in order to survive. This emotional set point has been the anchor of your loop. You break the loop not by forcing new thoughts, but by recalibrating the emotional frequency your body calls home. Emotional recalibration is not a mental process. It is an energetic metamorphosis. It is the art of teaching your nervous system to feel safe in a new vibration, to move from fear to calm, from doubt to trust, from scarcity to abundance, from contraction to openness. This is the rewiring that breaks lifetimes of repetition. Your emotions are not reactions, they are blueprints. Most people believe their emotions respond to their life, but the truth is far more profound. Your life responds to your emotions. Emotion is instruction. Emotion is command. Emotion is creation. Thoughts send signals, but emotions send orders. Your emotional baseline tells the universe what to mirror, what to amplify, what to attract, what to repeat, what to reinforce. When your emotional signature changes, your timeline changes. And when your timeline changes, your reality rearranges itself. The tale of the lantern of echoes. In a mist-covered kingdom lived an inventor named Amion, who created a lantern unlike any other. It did not shine light outward, it projected the inner light of whoever held it. When joyful hands held the lantern, it cast vibrant, glowing colors across the room. When sorrowful hands held it, the light dimmed into heavy blues and grays. When fearful hands touched it, the lantern flickered violently. People traveled for miles to see their inner state reflected. But one day, a young woman named Sarah arrived. She held the lantern and gasped. The light inside spiraled rapidly between colors. She looked at Amion with confusion. "What does this mean?" Amion studied her carefully. "You do not know your own baseline," he said. "You live between emotions rarely settling, always absorbing the energy around you." Sarah lowered her gaze. "I don't know what home feels like," she whispered. "Then this is your path," Amion replied. "Not to stabilize the world around you, but to stabilize the world within you." Sarah spent months learning to hold emotions with presence. Breath by breath, she discovered her true frequency, not fear, not chaos, but a quiet strength she had never known. When she finally held the lantern again, a single, steady golden glow filled the room. "That," Amion smiled, "is your emotional home. Build your life from that light." Why your emotional set point pulls you back. Your emotional baseline controls your instinctive reactions, your habitual thoughts, your interpretations, your choices, your identity, your patterns. The body always tries to return to its emotional home, even if that home was built through pain. This is why joy feels fleeting, relaxation feels unsafe, success feels unreal, love feels suspicious, peace feels unfamiliar. Your nervous system is calibrated for the old vibration, and so it finds its way back again and again until you consciously recalibrate. The first shift. Identify the old emotional home. Ask yourself, what emotion do I return to the most? Is it worry? Is it tension? Is it emptiness? Is it loneliness? Is it frustration? Is it fear? Is it longing? This is not judgment, it is diagnosis. You cannot recalibrate a frequency. you cannot name. The second shift. Choose the new emotional home. Ask, what emotion would my aligned self live in as their baseline? Peace, confidence, trust, worthiness, joy, openness, abundance. Choose one, just one. That emotion becomes your new home. Emotional recalibration is done through repetition. Your body must learn to hold this new emotion. That means calling it up daily, practicing it for seconds, then minutes, breathing into it, imagining it, embodying it. Your nervous system learns through consistency, not intensity. A few seconds each day rewires more than one powerful session once a month. The moment of resistance is the moment of rewiring. Whenever you try to hold a new emotional frequency, like calm, trust, or worthiness, your old emotional gravitational field will try to pull you back. That resistance is not failure. It is proof of transformation. Recalibration happens not in the ease, but in the return. Sacred practice, emotional anchoring. Sit in stillness. Place your hand over your heart. Whisper, "This is my new emotional home." Then breathe into the emotion you chose, even if it feels faint, even if it feels unfamiliar. Hold it, feel it, anchor it. Then, release it gently. Tomorrow, return again. Each time you return, the new frequency becomes stronger. Each time you return, your nervous system rewires. Each time you return, your timeline shifts. Emotional recalibration is the key that unlocks the next version of you. This is the beginning of the new cycle. This is the foundation of alignment. This is the vibration that will shape your destiny. Chapter 19. The frequency of decision. There comes a moment in your awakening when you realize something profound. Your life is shaped less by your circumstances and more by the frequency from which you make your decisions. Most people believe they decide with logic. Some believe they decide with desire. But in truth, every decision you make emerges from the vibration you are holding in the moment of choice. Fear makes one set of decisions. Scarcity makes another. Old wounds make another. Self-doubt makes another. And your future self, your highest timeline, makes decisions entirely differently. Your loop is not created by fate. It is created by the vibration behind your decisions. If you continue deciding from the frequency of your past, your future will always resemble what you've already lived. To break the loop, you must begin choosing from the frequency of who you are becoming, not who you have been. This is the frequency of decision, the vibrational birthplace of your destiny. Every decision has a vibration. Before a decision becomes an action, it exists as a frequency inside the body. There is a decision made from survival, tight, rushed, fearful, obligatory. There is a decision made from self-abandonment, apologetic, shrinking, hesitant. There is a decision made from unworthiness, compromising, settling, self-minimizing. There is a decision made from ego, defensive, grasping, performative. There is a decision made from alignment, grounded, clear, expansive. Two people can make the same decision on paper, yet arrive at entirely different realities, because their vibration was different. A yes spoken from fear tightens your future. A no spoken from self-honoring expands it. What matters is not what you choose, but who is choosing. The tale of the Golden Compass. In a harbor town filled with weathered ships and seasoned sailors, there lived a young navigator named Cyrus, who longed to sail the world. One day, he inherited a mysterious compass from a traveler who whispered, "This compass does not point north. It points to your truest choice." Cyrus laughed at first. How can a compass know my choices better than I do? But when he held it in his hand and tried to decide between accepting an ordinary job or pursuing his dream voyage, he noticed something strange. When he thought of the safe choice, the compass needle trembled, flickering weakly. When he imagined the unknown journey, the needle glowed with a warm golden light and pointed firmly forward. Cyrus stared in awe. "It does not show you the easiest choice," the old traveler said. "It shows you the choice that aligns with your highest frequency." As Cyrus followed this compass across many seas, he discovered something profound. The compass was not magic. It was a mirror reflecting the vibration of his heart and amplifying the direction that aligned with his truth. His destiny was shaped not by luck, but by choosing from the frequency of expansion instead of fear. Your body is the real compass. You too carry such a compass, the sensation in your body when you imagine a choice. The future self feels open. The old self feels contracted. Expansion speaks softly. Fear speaks urgently. Truth feels like calm clarity. Wounding feels like frantic pressure. Your body knows the difference between a decision made from survival and a decision made from alignment. When you begin listening, the frequency of your choices transforms. Why you keep repeating the same outcomes? You may wonder, why do I keep choosing the same kind of people? Why do I keep sabotaging opportunities? Why do I keep saying yes when I mean no? Why do I always choose comfort over growth? It is not because you are flawed. It is because your decisions are coming from emotional gravity, old identity, silent agreements, unresolved fear, childhood patterns, the illusion of safety. To break the loop, you must shift the vibrational source of your choices. Decisions create timelines. Timelines create identity. Identity creates destiny. The first shift, decision from consciousness. Before choosing, pause. Place your hand on your chest. Ask, which version of me is making this decision? Is it the wounded self? The fearful self? The people-pleasing self? The unworthy self? Or the becoming self? Awareness alone will shift your frequency. The second shift, choose from expansion, not contraction. Take your choices one by one. Feel them in your body. Does one option tighten your breath? Does the other soften your shoulders? Does one make your heart sink? Does the other make your chest feel expansive? Does one feel like hiding? Does the other feel like truth? The aligned choice often carries fear, but it is the fear of growth, not the fear of self-abandonment. Choose the one that feels expansive beneath the fear. The third shift, do not justify alignment. Your old self will try to justify the familiar. It will offer excuses, logic, rationalizations. Your new self needs no justification. Alignment is reason enough. Your future self is formed through decisions that honor your truth, even when no one understands them. Sacred practice, the decision frequency, ritual. Before making any decision, sit in stillness. Breathe deeply 3 times. Ask, what choice aligns with the reality I am entering? Feel the answer, not in your mind, but in your body. Act from that frequency. This is how timelines shift. This is how loops dissolve. This is how destiny is written. Your decisions carry a frequency. Choose the frequency of the self you are becoming, and your life will rise to meet you. Chapter 20. Living Beyond the Loop. There is a moment, quiet yet unmistakable, when you step out of the loop that has shaped your life for years. It does not feel like a victory march. It does not feel like fireworks or triumph. It feels like peace, a softness, a quiet spaciousness inside your being, as if the gravitational pull of your past has finally released its hold. Living beyond the loop is not an escape. It is an emergence, a rising into a version of yourself that no longer needs the old patterns to feel safe. It is freedom, but not the dramatic kind. It is the kind of freedom that feels like coming home after being lost for a very long time. What it feels like to live outside the loop. Living beyond the loop feels like responding instead of reacting, choosing without fear, speaking without shrinking, receiving without guilt, loving without self-abandonment, acting without sabotage, resting without shame, trusting without proof, existing without performing, everything softens, everything simplifies, everything opens. Life begins to feel less like a fight and more like a flow, not because the world changed, but because you did. The tale of the unbound sparrow. There once lived a sparrow who spent its life in a great gilded aviary. Its cage door had been left open for years, yet the sparrow never flew out. It knew the branches, it knew the perches, it knew the mirrors on the wall, it knew the predictable grains of seed. One morning, a storm shook the aviary. Wind roared, the room trembled, and the sparrow, terrified, fluttered through the open door by accident. For the first time, it tasted the vastness of the sky, but instead of fear, there was awe. Instead of panic, there was wonder. The sparrow looked back at the aviary, its familiar prison now strangely small. A wise hawk, soaring nearby, spoke softly. You were never trapped by bars. You were trapped by memory. The sparrow realized then that nothing had ever held it captive except the belief that it belonged inside the cage. And so it flew, higher, freer, unbound. This is what it means to live beyond the loop. Life changes when you are no longer driven by the past. For the first time, you stop anticipating pain, stop expecting disappointment, stop waiting for things to go wrong, stop bracing for rejection, stop analyzing every step, stop trying to control what isn't yours, stop replaying conversations in your mind, stop negotiating your worth, stop performing for acceptance, stop choosing from fear. Your nervous system calms, your mind quiets, your energy expands. You begin living from presence, not protection. This is what the soul feels like when it is no longer carrying the weight of old wounds. The illusion of nothing happening. When you first step beyond the loop, it may seem like nothing is happening. There are no dramatic events, no intense emotional waves, no internal chaos. Your mind may worry. Shouldn't something be happening? Why does everything feel so still? Am I missing something? Is this real? Yes, it is real. The stillness you feel is not emptiness. It is alignment. This is what life feels like when suffering is no longer the engine, when chase dissolves into allowing, when survival dissolves into trust, when noise dissolves into clarity. Stillness is not absence. Stillness is power. The first shift. Normalize peace. Your nervous system must learn that peace is safe. Ease is safe. Joy is safe. Quiet is safe. Expansion is safe. Love is safe. Receiving is safe. This is the recalibration of your entire life. You stop searching for storms because your body no longer equates chaos with normalcy. You become a person who can hold joy without waiting for it to collapse. You become a person who can receive without fearing the consequences. You become a person who no longer bristles when life is gentle. This is the true exit from the loop. The second shift. Build a life that reflects your new frequency. Your external reality must now catch up to your internal shift. This is where you choose relationships that honor your truth. Take steps you used to fear. Call in opportunities you once felt unworthy of. Set boundaries with ease. Allow abundance to flow. Create from inspiration. Speak from authenticity. Embody your future. Self-act without self-sabotage. You are no longer surviving. You are designing. Life becomes a canvas, not a battlefield. The third shift. Trust the new normal. A life beyond the loop feels unfamiliar at first, but it is the unfamiliarity of expansion, not the unfamiliarity of fear. Your old life required constant effort. Your new life requires trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in your intuition. Trust in your alignment. Trust in the timeline unfolding. Trust that what is coming is better than what was lost. Trust that you are no longer who you once were. Your future self is no longer distant. You are living as them now. Sacred practice. The breath of arrival. Place your hand on your heart. Close your eyes. Whisper, I am no longer inside the loop. I live beyond it now. Feel the truth of that. Feel the spaciousness. Feel the quiet joy. This is the sensation of having stepped into a new reality. The life that once felt unreachable is now the air you breathe. Welcome to the world that was always meant for you. Chapter 21. The Ongoing Awakening. There is a myth, quiet, yet persistent, that awakening happens once, that it arrives in a single lightning strike of clarity, a moment of revelation so profound that everything afterward becomes effortless. But awakening is not an event. It is a rhythm, a pulse, a continual unfolding of deeper and deeper layers of truth. You do not awaken once. You awaken again and again, each time remembering more of who you truly are. Just as a flower does not bloom in a single breath, your consciousness does not expand in a single moment. There are petals within petals, worlds within worlds, awakenings within awakenings. This is the ongoing awakening, the eternal journey of returning to yourself. Awakening is not a destination. Many seekers imagine awakening as a final arrival, a place where fear dissolves, doubt disappears, and suffering becomes a distant memory. But awakening does not lift you above life. It roots you into it. Awakening makes you more present, more aware, more compassionate, more honest, more courageous, more aligned. Life does not become easier. You become truer. You still feel emotions, but they no longer consume you. You still encounter challenges, but you no longer identify with them. You still walk through shadows, but you walk with light. Awakening does not end the human experience, it deepens it. The tale of the endless staircase. In a sacred mountain monastery lived a monk named Soryu, revered for his wisdom and calm presence. Travelers from distant lands came seeking enlightenment, believing Soryu held the final key. One eager student, convinced that enlightenment was a peak to reach, asked Soryu to show him the path. Soryu led him to a hidden stairway carved into the mountain itself. The student gasped. The staircase rose endlessly into the clouds. How long until we reach the top? The student asked. Soryu smiled. There is no top. There is only the next step. The student frowned. Then why climb it at all? Soryu placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Because each step changes the one who climbs. The student, moved yet confused, asked, but what awaits at the end? Soryu looked upward, eyes filled with timeless knowing. The end is simply another beginning. When you reach the place you once called the summit, you will discover it is only the first step of the next ascent. And so the student climbed, and with each step, he left behind an old layer of himself and stepped into a deeper truth. This is the nature of awakening. Awakening arrives in waves. Awakening does not come all at once. It arrives in cycles, each one revealing a deeper truth. First, you awaken from unconsciousness. Then, you awaken from old beliefs. Then, you awaken from inherited identities. Then, you awaken from emotional gravity. Then, you awaken from fear. Then, you awaken from resistance. Then, you awaken into your own power. And just when you believe the journey is complete, another layer calls for your attention. Awakening is not repetition. It is refinement. Why awakening sometimes feels like regression. There will be moments when it seems you are falling backward, old fears resurfacing, old wounds reopening, old patterns reappearing. But this is not regression. This is resurfacing. Healing brings the shadows to light, because light is where they dissolve. Your returning patterns are not failures, they are invitations. Every resurfaced wound asks you, will you meet me with love this time? Will you choose differently now? Will you bring awareness where there was once avoidance? Awakening spirals upward, not linearly forward. You return to familiar places with a new consciousness. This is evolution. The first shift, acceptance of eternal becoming. Your awakening deepens the moment you stop seeking a finish line. Let this truth settle in your bones. You are not meant to complete awakening. You are meant to live it. Awakening is life's eternal dance, with itself a constant remembering and forgetting, expanding and contracting, moving and stilling, seeing and unseeing. You are a wave of consciousness exploring itself. Let the journey be beautiful. The second shift, presence over perfection. You do not awaken perfectly. No one does. You awaken in moments of stillness, impulses of clarity, glimpses of truth, subtle shifts, gentle realizations, softening judgments, quiet breakthroughs. Perfection is the enemy of awakening. Presence is the catalyst. Choose presence. Choose breath. Choose awareness. These choices reshape your destiny. Sacred practice. The candle of continual becoming. Sit comfortably in a quiet space. Light a candle before you. Gaze softly into the flame. Steady, yet always moving. Whisper, "As the flame dances, so do I." I awaken again and again into deeper truth. Feel the flame's movement inside your chest. A reminder that awakening is not a final state, but a living process. Your journey continues not because you are incomplete, but because your potential is infinite. You are not who you were, and you are not yet who you are becoming. This is the miracle of the ongoing awakening. Chapter 22. The Return to Creative Power. There comes a moment, in the seeker's journey after patterns break, after timelines collapse, after identities dissolve, after the loop ends, when something extraordinary happens. You return to your creative power, not as a concept, not as philosophy, not as a technique, but as truth. The truth that you are not a passive observer of your reality, nor a victim of unconscious momentum, nor a character trapped within fate's script. You are the source. You are the author. You are the consciousness shaping experience. You are the creative intelligence behind the life unfolding before you. This return is not loud. It is a soft revelation, as if the universe whispers, "You are the one who creates." Creation was never external. Most people imagine creation as something outside themselves, a manifestation technique, a cosmic request, a series of rituals, a list of desires written on paper. But creation does not begin outside. Creation begins inside. It begins in your vibration, your identity, your emotional baseline, your energetic signature, your expectations, your assumptions, your self-perception. Your outer world is the physical expression of your inner world. The world does not create you, it responds to you. The tale of the Dreamweaver. In a luminous desert city lived a man named Avon, known as the Dreamweaver. People believed Avon could weave realities using nothing but intention and thread. One night, a young woman visited him, asking to see how creation worked. Avon led her to a vast loom, made of starlight and shadows. "Show me your desire," he said. The woman described a life filled with love, abundance, and purpose. Avon nodded and handed her a glowing thread. "Now weave," he instructed. But as she moved her hands, the thread tangled and distorted, forming knots instead of patterns. Avon watched silently. "I don't understand," she cried. "I know what I want." Avon lifted her hands gently. "The world does not weave what you want," he said. "It weaves what you are." He pointed to her heart. "Your thread took the shape of your doubt, your fear, your disbelief. You said the words of desire, but you held the vibration of unworthiness." The woman trembled. "How do I fix it?" Avon smiled softly. "You do not fix the thread. You become the weaver." He placed a hand on her chest. "Weave from your truth, not from your wounds." She closed her eyes, breathed deeply, and felt a shift inside, a soft rising of self-worth. When she opened her eyes and touched the thread again, it flowed into a magnificent tapestry. Reality weaves itself from your inner state. True creative power is not about control. You do not create by forcing outcomes. You create by aligning your vibration. Control is the language of fear. Creation is the language of consciousness. When you try to control reality, you constrict, you push, you resist, you fear, you grasp, you distort. When you create from alignment, reality flows. Synchronicities unfold. Timing becomes perfect. Opportunities arise. Clarity emerges. Life cooperates. Creation is not about manipulating the world. It is about becoming the version of yourself who naturally attracts the world you desire. The return to creative power begins when you remember who you are. You are not separate from the universe. You are an expression of it. You are not a guest in creation. You are a participant in its unfolding. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean expressing itself as a drop. Your desires are not random. They are invitations, instructions, signals from the version of you that already exists. Your dreams are not fantasies. They are blueprints. When you return to your creative power, you stop begging the universe and start partnering with it. You move from asking to allowing, from forcing to embodying, from wishing to remembering. The first shift: become the cause, not the effect. Ask yourself, what if I stopped reacting to life and began generating it? Feel the difference. The old self reacts. The new self originates. Begin each morning by setting your vibration intentionally. The feeling you want to hold, the identity you want to embody, the energy you want to radiate. You are not waiting for life to change. You are changing your frequency first. The second shift: align with the version of you who creates easily. The version of you who lives your desired reality. Thinks differently, feels differently, acts differently, chooses differently, expects differently. Begin embodying those shifts now. Creation is not something you do. It is something you become. The third shift: surrender the how. Your job is not to know the how. Your job is to hold the vibration. The universe orchestrates the pathways in ways your mind cannot predict. Surrendering the how is the ultimate act of creative faith. It is the moment you release control and step fully into co-creation. Sacred practice: the declaration of creative power. Sit in stillness. Place both hands on your heart. Whisper, I am the creator of my reality. I align. I allow. I become. Feel the energy surge through you, not as ego, but as truth. Your loop is broken. Your identity is reborn. Your emotional baseline is recalibrated. Your future self is within reach. Your timeline is transforming. You have returned to your creative power, and now your life will reflect it.